So now that you have your camera, you know what lenses we're looking for, the next thing you need to think about is the crop factor of your particular camera. Crop factor means this: it is the ratio of the dimensions of your particular camera's imaging area compared to a full frame camera. Basically, to put it really simple, if a full frame camera has an imaging area like this, your camera might have an imaging area like this. And that means that while a lens has a particular focal length and will act a certain way on a full frame camera, let's say a 50mm will look like a 50mm on a full frame, when you put it on your camera, it might not be a 50mm at all. So most DSLR cameras have a crop factor between 1.3 and 2. So to find the particular crop factor for your camera, just type it into Google, type in the name of your camera followed by the phrase crop factor. Also, you should know that there are some DSLR cameras that don't have a crop factor at all, like the Canon 5D Mark II and Mark III. Now, these cameras are called full frame cameras, and you don't need to worry about the crop factor. If it says it's a 50mm lens, it'll look like a 50mm on your camera. So if you're lucky enough to shoot on one of those, you can disregard this information and move on to the next lesson. The reason we're covering this seemingly complex topic so early in this tutorial series is because understanding your crop factor is going to be essential when you're buying your very first lenses. Let me explain. Observe this crop factor equation that you must know. To understand how a lens will look on your particular camera, you have to take the crop factor of your camera and multiply that by the focal length of the lens. Let me give you an example. When I was first starting out, everyone told me that you needed a 50mm lens. You want to shoot portraits, you want to shoot anything with people, you need a 50mm. You're starting out, you got to get a 50mm. So I listened to those people. I went out and I got myself a 50mm. Bam! But what I didn't consider was the crop factor on my camera. Now at the time, I was using the Canon T3i, and the crop factor on a Canon T3i is 1.6, and so the 50mm that I bought when put on my camera was actually an 80mm. Rookie mistake. So if you're looking for a particular length lens, like in the last lesson, we talked about a 50mm portrait lens and a wide angle lens. Let's say you're looking for a 50mm, but you're shooting on the T3i like I was, which has a crop factor of 1.6. You'd actually want a 30.25mm lens. Now I don't think they make 30.25mm lenses, so just get something close. 28 is probably your best bet. Now I know this may seem a little bit complex for a very beginning tutorial, and perhaps it is. I just don't want you to make the same mistake I did and spend the money and spend the time. I haven't used this lens in probably a whole year because it's just not really any use to me on my particular camera. So let's take a look at those equations one more time, just to make sure. To understand how a particular lens will look on your camera, it's the crop factor of your camera times the focal length of the lens, and that equals how it will look. And the inverse of the equation, if you know the exact length and the exact lens you want, you take the length of that lens, divide it by your camera's crop factor, and that will equal the lens that you should get. Well, that's it for this episode on crop factor. How very exciting. Not quite. We're moving on to frame rates in the next lesson, which will be more exciting, I guarantee. So go over and check that. Also, visit Pro Church Tools to get your free ebook. You can look for information on that in the description below.